Welcome to Cantaritos Conversations. Today we have a great DJ, Juan. Juan, what's your socials?
JP underscore official.
So, Juan, I've seen you around, I've seen you DJing, and you do a pretty good job. What initially got you into DJing?
Initially, what got me into DJing was I've always really been into EDM music, and seeing one of my friends start doing it, seeing him actually be able to progress in this career, really motivated me to try it myself. So after that was just getting the equipment and practicing, and now we're here.
Are you like officially from El Paso? Like, did you
Yes,
grew up here? So, how
yes.
do you think El Paso affected your music taste and how you mix today?
Great question. So honestly, I would say more than likely would be their culture. Like having Juarez and like Mexican culture so closely nearby really does influence a lot in my music because I really do like playing like some of like the Latin music remixed with a little bit of EDM. So I do feel like that's one of the things that really influences my music taste, especially now when I'm a DJ.
Yeah. So, what motivates you to keep going? Gigs don't always go as they expected. Sometimes some people flake out on you. You'll set up an appointment, you'll set this time, you'll tell other people, hey, no, I'm doing this event. And then that just kind of roadblocks you. What keeps you motivated and keeps you going?
The biggest thing I would say is always just believing in yourself, just always constantly believing in yourself and knowing that you have a bigger goal in mind. Like, don't let the little things, the little bumps in the road stop you because always things are always going to happen. Like, you can't expect whenever you start getting into any kind of business to be big right off the bat. So, obviously, you got to expect things to go wrong. And whenever they do, just keep on pushing and keep on trying to prepare for the best.
And then, how was your first gig? Obviously everybody gets a little bit of jitters.
hmm
Everybody, and then you don't know really what to expect. You never done this before, but how was your first gig?
Not gonna lie, man, I was super nervous. The first time I ever like hopped behind the booth and everything, it was honestly something super new to me. I never had ever done anything like that, let alone like stand in front of people and do like anything. So I was really nervous, but once you get there and after like the first like two, three songs, from there it just kind of starts flowing. The anxiety goes away, nervousness goes down, and everything just kind of flows.
Yeah, and then so obviously you've done many sets since then. And
Mhm.
then what have you learned? Obviously everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So since then, how have you learned to recover from mistakes?
So I would say the biggest thing is don't let it become like, I guess, the highlight of your set. If you make a mistake while you're playing, especially if it's live, just try to fix it as quick as possible. Don't make a big deal out of it. Especially like if you have a lot of people in front of you, try not to make like any faces or anything like that. Just act normal because at the end of the day, most of the time people aren't really gonna notice it in the crowd unless they know what you're doing or they know like what a DJ has to do, how the music is mixed, anything like that. So most of the time, people aren't gonna notice. So if you don't make a big deal of it, people won't. That's pretty much like the
Makes
best
sense,
thing.
yeah, because most people won't even remember it. I mean,
Exactly.
you're there for hours, and if you remember it, I mean, you're kind of a loser.
Yeah, literally.
Throughout this time, how long have you been DJing?
Probably been about a year and a few months, right
Year and
about
a few
now.
months. So,
hmm
any memorable successes through all that? And, any good events? Because I know you talked about the one here at Cantaritos with
hmm
700 people Halloween. I mean, first off, Halloween is a great thing.
Yeah.
Everybody has that more lively energy. You see people in their
Yes.
costumes doing their
Yes.
things to your music. So, what's any memorable moments you have?
Hmm. So definitely that one for Halloween. We also had a really cool event at a bar that closed down just recently, Davenport, over
Mm-hmm.
by Montecillo. That one it was kind of like a golf themed event.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I do really remember about that was like at one point in the night, it got so packed that like people were like overfilling us in the booth and everything. We were completely surrounded by people like front, back, and sides, and it was just like a really memorable experience because like everybody was singing, everybody was vibing, having a good time, and honestly, like that was probably like my biggest success up to date besides the 700 people event because it was just like seeing everybody just so genuinely like happy, enjoying their
Yeah,
time with their
that's good.
friends.
That's good. So, I mean, speaking of the booth,
hmm
people get in there.
Yeah.
People definitely piss you off from time to time, huh?
Yes.
I know I
Nah,
I get
nah, not recently, not recently.
not recently. So like especially in the booth,
Yeah.
maybe if you get a little bit bigger size woman in there, does anything happen in the booth? Has anybody like shit in your booth while you're up there?
So actually, that's kind of a funny question. When we first started and before Cantaritos had like their whole booth like built and everything, we used to come with our own little booth. mind you, our own booth is made of aluminum. It's like super light. You can pick it up with like literally one person.
Mhm.
So we had that up there in the stage, and then we had like probably like 10, 15 people up there on the stage with us,
Mhm.
and we had two of our friends hold down the booth while we were holding the booth down, and it was still shaking. Like there were times where like the booth almost fell and everything.
Yeah.
Then you always have people try to like pull it down from the front. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, there's definitely always those scenarios where you like kind of have to like secure your booth before it goes away with the people.
Yeah, so you had your own booth, and
Mhm.
those are all things like starting up. Obviously,
Yes.
whenever you start up, you don't have the best equipment and
Right.
all that. So after starting and getting your own beginner equipment,
Hmm.
what was like the first quality of life buy? Like you didn't need it, but it was like you bought it because you know it make it easier and you just
Hmm.
enjoyed it. Like it was a good purchase
Hmm.
and it was just all around like really helped you out.
I would definitely say the very first thing, like after we started like mixing and doing better with the mixes, would be lights.
Lights.
Lights, lasers. They'll always make your show better because like you put in a dark room, turn off all the lights and everything. You put in some laser shows, some lights. People are just gonna have a good time. You can literally turn like any little like house party into like a club per se, and like genuinely people will have a more fun time if you have like lights and everything around your.
Do you do any preparation for the lights, or do you just kind of like you just set it up for the first time, saw how it went, and then from there you learn?
So the lights we have are sound activated, so they
Mhm.
respond based on the music. So like if it's like a kind of like a slow, chill song, it'll be like a slow kind of like light show, and then if it starts picking up, then it'll start switching, throw in some lasers and stuff like that. So I mean, in preparation wise, I don't really have to do anything because the light does it all itself.
Yeah, and all this stuff is happening live.
Hmm.
You're not like other artists where you have time to sit in a booth and
Hmm.
change these different things. Obviously you can set at home, you have
Right.
your set mix at home, but whatever you get live, it's there.
Mhm.
So how do you like performing live, and like what is that like really?
So performing live, honestly, like I know there's like multiple DJs out there that like to like pre-record a set, practice it at home, and then like they go in public and they do that. Me personally, I kind of just like to go freestyle,
Mhm.
do like as the people are kind of like vibing,
Yeah,
see what
play
they're
by the
responding to.
feeling of the
Yeah,
crowd, the vibe of the
exactly.
crowd.
See what they're responding to. So like one thing that like my friend that started like getting me into DJ always said is like notice how none of my sets are the same. So it's like that's something that I kind of always wanted to stick by because it's like if you always have the same set, like regardless of where you play, people already know what you play like. So it's like, oh, well, I've
Mhm.
already heard that. I don't really want to.
Yeah, yeah. You just want to keep it fresh, and you want
Exactly.
to be a jack of all trades when it
Exactly.
comes to music. Now, when it comes to music, what is your favorite genre? What do you typically like to play?
Favorite genre would definitely be house, EDM.
Mhm.
Definitely love that because I feel like it gets people moving, and then like it's always
Has
just
some
like,
soul in the
yeah,
music.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
groovy, people enjoy it, and I love it. So
Hmm.
that's definitely
And
the
then,
best
so
one.
what is some song, like a set of songs or set genre
Hmm.
that even though people will beg for it,
Hmm.
you will never play?
Oof.
Like you
Um.
just don't have the stomach to put it on.
Honestly, like this might be like kind of a hot take because I know a lot of people like country, but but again, I'm not against it. I have played it before. I can definitely play it, but like if it's one of like my events or stuff like that, and someone can ask me for country, more than likely I'm gonna tell them that I can't. Just because again, it's not something that I like. There's some great songs out there. I'm not hating or anything like that, but it's just
Mhm.
not my style.
Yeah. So has anybody paid you for a song request?
Um, yeah, yeah, they have. They've ordered me like a shot or two. They gave me a
Oh,
beer. They're like, "Hey, I'll get you a beer if you can play this song." Those are usually the
okay.
times where you'll see me throw like a country song or anything like that. But
So
yeah,
so if I buy you a beer, you'll put on some of that Soulja Boy. That's what I'm hearing.
mm,
Oh, don't be dissing Soulja like that.
nah,
Let me
hear
hit
me
my
out.
Superman
Nah, nah,
mix
hear me
up.
out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out.
I'll start a
So
mosh pit with that Superman.
I'll play it. I'll play it depending on the crowd. It depends a lot on the crowd because like,
So you're saying I need to be back home?
uh, take it as you want it, man.
So, what's your, like, do you, obviously you said you like your freestyle.
Yes.
So how do you read a crowd and adjust your set accordingly,
Hmm.
with all that? Because, there's definitely some people who are more of a mellow vibe whenever they get in there. They want some stuff, to play games to, and they like to have it. They're enjoying the music,
Hmm.
but they're not getting active with it. And then you see in the middle, and I've been there, and I've been hyping up the crowd there, and in the middle, they're getting, they're grooving. So how do you read the crowd, and how do you set your set
Hmm.
accordingly?
The best way I would say is like the number one giveaway is like people bobbing their head. If you see people bobbing their head, you know they're enjoying the music and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like you said, not everybody likes to go out there and dance, be wild in the middle of the dance floor. That's cool. The biggest giveaway, like I said, would be people bobbing their head. After that, facial expressions.
Mhm.
After you put on a song, if people start kind of making like an ugly face or stuff like that, maybe that's not really what they wanted to hear right now at the moment.
Mhm.
So that's probably the biggest one. And then the last one I would say is people walking out. If after you start playing, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, people start walking out, that's probably not what they want to hear. So then from there, you switch it up and then you start seeing people coming back. That's kind of how you measure the crowd and stuff like that. You go from there.
You're up there. You're
Hmm.
always working,
Yeah.
but everybody likes to have fun.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to fuck with people while they're in the crowd? You know, like see, like, oh, dude, I'm gonna do this just to like throw them off or like see what they do. You know, just have some fun up there. Maybe like stop a drop. You know, or something.
Definitely, definitely. So that's honestly one of the things that my friend Luis, who I play with all the time, usually always hates me doing is a lot of times whenever he's has like the crowd going or he has like a certain vibe, I like to piss him off by like switching it like excuse me, abruptly.
Hmm.
I'll just do like a quick boom, switch the genre completely, like go from like house music to like reggaeton or like, like pop music, stuff like that. A lot of people don't notice it. Sometimes they do, but like that's honestly like the biggest like thing I like to do to fuck with him. Like
Hmm.
just like switch the genre like abruptly mid song.
Yeah, we're not country, but yeah,
Sometimes.
you have some fun, but you got to get serious.
Right.
What's your biggest challenge that you have faced while you either set up live or like maybe at your home and maybe your software's not working at home right before you go to the event. Stuff like that happens now. Life likes to throw you curveballs.
Yep.
So what is like the biggest challenge you face while performing?
That would honestly be hardware, man. Sometimes, like how you said, equipment doesn't work like you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Software could crash literally mid set. Music could cut off. Any number of things can happen. We've had like a number of times where like our controller stops working mid set, so we have to like improvise, loop a song for like a long time, and then like fix it, restart everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest challenge would honestly be like the uncertainty of like how the hardware will perform when you're up there.
So you obviously evolve
Hmm.
within yourself. How do you see the DJ scene itself evolving? Because as somebody maybe from the outside, I understand a fair amount, but somebody from the outside, the first thing I would say like with evolving is one the generations of music.
Hmm.
We were definitely playing something different 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and then the equipment itself evolving. Getting easier
Right.
to work with. So how do you see the DJ scene itself evolving?
Definitely, I've seen it grow exponentially over the past like year or two,
Mm-hmm.
especially here in El Paso. I remember like back in the day, you really didn't used to see like a lot of events like here at like Cincy, and if you did, you weren't really seeing like a lot of like house music and stuff like that. Always you have like Lost and Found and Hush Hush, which that was kind of like the usual vibe to have like that kind of music. But at the end of the day, like now, like since how you said like equipment's kind of getting like cheaper, there's newer stuff, the genre is really growing,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people are kind of like going out there, getting their feet wet, like going to raves, going to these events, and they're really like
Mm-hmm.
enjoying it. It's growing really fast.
Yeah. Now, Hush Hush, that's
Hmm.
over by the stadium, right?
Yes.
So, and if I remember correctly, it has multiple areas
Hmm.
and even has like, a higher part.
Yes.
So, like, how do you like to play in those events that have like different areas? Like
Hmm.
I think the easiest one that most people can relate to, especially y'all here, coming to Cantaritos, Kiyoshi. Kiyoshi has an indoor and an outdoor. And I
Hmm.
see most of the time the DJ outdoors, but I saw one indoors one time.
Hmm.
So it's kind of hard to gauge, two different scenes, and the outside sounds different from the inside.
Hmm.
So is there any challenges or any technique that you have with different settings like that?
The biggest challenge I would say in that scenario would probably be like how you said, like the different genres of the music playing. Sometimes people want to hear like a little bit of more reggaeton, a little bit of more house music, EDM, stuff like that. So.
There's a lot of things going on in the DJ scene,
Hmm.
and people don't understand a lot,
Hmm.
especially. We could talk about more technical stuff, but at the end of the day, people would understand that. So, what do you wish people from the outside, you're just walking in and people just like, they don't have that much experience,
Hmm.
in the music scene and all that. So, what do you wish people would understand more about DJing itself and being up there and having to perform live?
It's a lot more than just pressing play on a song. There's a lot of like preparation that has to go in like beforehand and like terms of practice and everything like that. You got to know how to like mix in a song, how like the vibes can like clash, like cuz sometimes you have like upbeat songs that you want
Mm-hmm.
to mix in with a downbeat, so that kind of like clashes. So you have to know how to mess with like the beats per minute and like move it around, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more complicated than it looks. So I would feel like if people could just kind of like not like appreciate the art a little more, but like it's a lot more than it looks. So like,
So, you're talking about all that stuff, right? And, people do want to get into the scene.
mhm,
So, everybody could ask for advice, and,
mhm.
you can find plenty of stuff on that on YouTube and all that. But what would you recommend, like a starting point? Like, cause you started, and I've seen you, and you've grown, and it's you could tell that you're improving so much. So, what do you wish somebody dropped information? Like something that you're never gonna hear from the internet. What do you wish somebody would told you that would really help your set and really help understanding how to flow with the music?
Hmm.
Because it's an art form.
Right.
DJing is an art form. Because and it's especially hard because you're doing it all live and you have to
Mhm.
keep up with it. So what do you
Right.
wish somebody would drop a little bit of information on you when you were
Hmm.
starting?
If it's something you're considering before you start, get yourself a good idea of what it is that you want to play, what kind of music you like, and what kind of music you've noticed that, like, let's say you're the aux in the car, what kind of music you've noticed that other people like. Kind of notice that, say like, okay, I kind of like this type of music. If you're into rap, what are your favorite rappers, stuff like that. Or if you're into EDM, your favorite DJs. It really doesn't matter like what you want to play. It just matters like what do you want to play the most, what do you like the most, how can you express yourself as this
Mhm.
DJ in a way that people can be like, damn, that's Juan, or like that's
Yeah.
Jesse playing, like
Hmm.
kind of like
Okay.
show your passion.
Yeah. So you want to put your own essence to the
Yes,
music. So
always put your
do
essence
you
into it.
feel like whenever people are trying to do this stuff, they
Hmm.
try to play into like the most popular stuff because
Yes.
everybody wants to fit in,
Hmm.
but there's no point of fitting in whenever everybody's the same. You need a how do you make yourself stand out?
This might sound a little funny, but I would honestly say passion. You have to
Mhm.
have a lot of passion to do this, and you have to have that
It's late
show,
nights. It's
especially
late
when you're up
nights.
there, because sometimes you've had a long day, you're tired, but at the end of the day, it's still a job,
Mhm.
in a way. So just having the passion to be able to go up there and perform, make like show people that you're having a good time so that they can have a good time as well, would honestly be like the biggest key giveaway. Because if you don't have passion, regardless if you're playing like the most popular songs, people aren't gonna enjoy you because they're gonna notice that you're not enjoying yourself.
What are you really passionate about secretly? Yeah, everybody's got a little bit of guilty pleasures in the art forms. I don't think you would ever guess mine. I'm a little bit of a poetry man.
Are you
I'm
now?
a little bit of a poem man. So what's a little guilty pleasure in this art that you secretly would never play on that stage?
Dubstep.
Dubstep,
I
pure dubstep.
really like dubstep, especially like the old Skrillex, like when he,
Yeah.
yeah, like when he first started. That's something that like it'd be hard to get up like to be up there and play it and have people like be actually able to enjoy it because
Hmm.
like it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of crazy sounds and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. But
So
that
some
would
people don't like
definitely
those like high pitches and
exactly.
so talking about hush hush and all that and Cantaritos. That's why I love Cantaritos. It's more intimate. So do you like that more intimate or like that live scene?
So as a DJ man, I definitely say it's kind of like a 50-50 split.
Hmm.
Definitely enjoy those more intimate venues where you can interact with the crowd, see how they're doing, hype them up a little bit, stuff like that. Definitely love those intimate venues.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, those bigger venues are also really cool because obviously more people can go. You get to see a bigger crowd. It's a little more nerve wracking.
Yeah.
You got more people in front of
Yeah.
you, but
So like,
definitely.
you know, we're talking about all these people. How like who would you want to collaborate with, dead or alive? Who would you want to collaborate with? And has there been anybody that you collaborated with that you really loved?
So I would say definitely one of my biggest inspirations would be Avicii, who passed away from an overdose, unfortunately, a couple years back. He's always someone who I would have loved to get the chance to meet, even play
Hmm.
with. That would have been awesome. Just again, because like I said, of how big of an inspiration he was to me and how meaningful like his lyrics are in his music and all that kind of stuff. Um, and up until now, I really haven't played with anybody that like in the scene because I'm still kind of like growing. But if I ever get to it, he's still alive now, so being able to back with John Summit like at an event
Hmm.
would be pretty cool.
All these people and all these things, who do you think influences your set the most? I mean, you talked about your main man,
Hmm.
but like where do you grab inspiration from?
Honestly, just be from probably my roots, my culture, like again, like from being Mexican, and there being so much like culture and ethnicity and that kind of music. Sometimes when I'm feeling a little lost for creativeness or I don't really know where to look for like new songs. I try to look for remixes of songs that I like in Spanish. That always gives me like a new outlet to find more music. If not, I try to kind of stick with the DJs that I really like, see if they've
Mhm.
dropped any new music, go from there.
Mhm.
It's always a battle, like this art form, and like you with videos, sometimes it's a little hard to get creative. So,
Mhm.
yeah, you always got to work on it.
Yeah, and creativity today, somewhat dying because of
Yeah.
the AI. So how do you? Some people are using AI to generate these tracks, to generate ideas and all that. So how do you feel about AI being introduced into the DJ scene?
So, AI is honestly something that I think is really wonderful in certain aspects. But when you start using it for things where you need a little bit of more like of that human essence, a little bit of more soul, if you will, I feel like it kind of ruins it because like music again is really soulful. There's a lot of like feelings and emotion that goes into it, and
Mhm.
that's something that AI really lacks. So I feel like it would in a way be kind of like ruining music and everything that all this is because it doesn't have none of that like feel that a human
Mhm.
has.
Yeah, so I mean, going on technology itself, I mean, social media is everything now.
Right.
Social media is absolutely everything. So, do you feel like social media, if people can say whatever they want
Hmm.
online, they'll never say something to your face, but they still talk shit online. They'll do these things. They'll make fun of you. So, how do you feel like social media affects the DJ scene, and especially for you?
I feel like it is really helpful in the way that you can get a lot more reach. Obviously, when you're first starting, not a lot of people know you, not a lot of people know about you, but social media gets you the opportunity to be able to reach those people. A certain post can go so far and it can go all around the world and you will never even know it. Social media is always going to be probably one of the biggest things that can help you as a DJ grow, especially like me. That's what I've noticed. Like constantly posting, letting people know when you're going to have events is always going to draw more of a crowd towards you. So always be interactive with social media and try to be consistent with your
Mhm.
posts.
And I see you out here a lot, and I see you at other scenes a lot. I mean, this Sunday you were here early in the morning
Mhm.
DJing for a yoga class. Yoga class went good. Sundays, Cantaritos, donations. Reciprocate how you feel about the class, and it's a really good class. But how do you balance that work life?
Hmm.
Because you're in school, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
full
so you're
time.
in school and full time, and I'm the same way. So how do you find that work life balance?
To be completely honest, it sometimes is kind of overwhelming because again, I'm only one person and having to do all these classes and homework and events. It sometimes can be a little bit much, but the best way I could say is take it one step at a time in a way. Like if you're going to, like I said, you have your classes, do one assignment, do your homework before you go to your set.
Hmm.
That way you don't have that in your mind when you're playing that, oh, I still gotta go home
Hmm.
and do my homework.
Yeah.
It's just in a way being a little bit responsible of what you're or of what you have to do in matters of assignments and stuff like that. Just stay on top of it, really. That's like the best way to like manage it, especially
Hmm.
when you're doing this kind of thing where like you stay up till the late night and stuff like that.
And obviously, this is a business. You
Yes.
run a business.
Yes.
How do you stay professional? Because it's very easy to slip. You make one slip and somebody sees you doing stupid at a venue. You can't go to that venue anymore.
Right.
So how do you really stay professional and stay in that mindset? Because there's gonna be a bunch of drinks going around.
Mhm.
I know you get a lot of drinks up there. People are giving you drinks and all that.
Yeah.
So how do you stay professional and make sure you do your job?
It's honestly gonna just lead at the end to respect. It's always gonna be just stay respectful with, you know, whoever's running the venue, the managers, the bartenders. Always stay respectful of course, with the crowd, like how you said, you don't want to make a fool of yourself. You don't want to seem unprofessional.
Hmm.
So, especially in this business, it's a little hard to kind of like define that line of what really professionalism is.
Hmm.
Um, but like I said, just always stay respectful with whoever is running the event, and you really shouldn't have a problem with not being professional.
Like how is it like at home? Like do you, like unwinding yourself? Like do you do that? And then like what do you like to do at home?
So when I'm at home, honestly, it's really just kind of mixing whatever goes. Like I really just how I kind of like to play is I just like music and I put it in a specific playlist. I don't really put it in any order, and I kind of play as it goes. Try to find what songs sound good with each other. I don't usually always follow with that, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of seeing how the music flows and what's good.
How do you decide to put a song on the track? What's the technique in adding new
Hmm.
songs?
So For that, I would say, especially like for the kind of music that I play, like house music and stuff like that, it's a little more underground. A lot of people don't really recognize it. So the kind of thing I try to focus on is like good rhythm,
Hmm.
because a lot of people like rhythm, and especially if you have like a catchy little beat or something that like sticks to people or get them moving a little bit. That's the easiest way to kind of like introduce kind of like new music to them, because they'll be like, okay, this sounds kind of cool, and then they'll start dancing to it, and at the end of the night, they'll end up like looking up for the song or like, going up to you and be like, you know what, I love that song, or you killed it. Little things like that. It's always just kind of trying to, in a way, open people's minds a little bit.
Yeah, remember, folks, Shazam is a thing. But
You
you
can
know,
ask Siri too.
yeah. Oh, really? I don't
Yes.
know. Maybe we start using AI to find songs. Maybe. But as we're ending this off and turning this off, do you have any upcoming projects or anything that you have big coming up? Any events, anything like that? What you got going on that might be new?
Yes. So this is honestly something that my partner and I, Luis, have been working on, kind of like under the table a little bit. We're actually planning on doing a little event at White Sands. So it's kind of gonna be like a little dune desert type of event. So we're gonna go out there, play some music into the sunset, just have some vibes with our friends. So that's something that I'm honestly really looking forward to. Another one would probably be we're gonna do like a little pop up set in Trans Mountain, like on the Overlook.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like for sunset, just little things like that, kind of like getting ourselves out there. And I feel like the cool backgrounds really do pop off a lot in the videos too. So that's like another cool way to like get us to grow a little bit.
Okay. Well, great segment here with Juan at Cantaritos Conversations. Look, we're going to be doing plenty of these, and we know you guys love Juan, so I'm going to keep on bringing here people that you guys absolutely love and people that keep El Paso active. We want to stay right here in El Paso and make sure that you guys get the greatest coverage. So thank you for watching Cantaritos Conversation on this podcast. Like I said, his at is JHP official.
JP_official.
JP underscore official.
Yes,
I
sir.
was on the tongue. But yes, thank you guys for tuning in, and you guys have an absolutely great one.
See you next time, guys.